On this episode, we're going to go over 4 different ways that are much better than asking to pick someone's brain. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Financial Freedom Fastlane. And as you know it, the quicker you get to your dream life, the longer you get to live it. And I'm your host, George Achenpong, and I'm super excited for this episode for a variety of reasons, which we'll get into. But before we do that, let me share with you what we're going to cover. It's no secret that the quickest way to anything is a straight line. And if someone has already had success in a certain area, naturally, if you want to expedite your learning curve, expedite your journey, the goal would be getting connected to the source, right? The problem is, if that person is who you believe they are, they're probably busy. They probably have a lot going on. And the last thing they probably want to hear is, hey man, can I buy you some coffee? That's $3. Hey man, can I pick your brain? And here's the thing. It's not that these people or even myself that we're larger than life and we're not accessible. It just kind of like undermines the reality of who they are and the amount of time, the amount of money, and the amount of effort that they've had to put into becoming that person. Like there's a reason why you want to learn from them, and to just arbitrarily assume that they're gonna carve out an hour of their time for coffee is just a bad way to ask. It's not that they don't have the heart or desire to help. It's just not the best approach, because you got to think about it. If someone's at the top, right, of their respective field or industry, people are always asking them for something, right? It feels like they're always getting pulled on in multiple directions. So when you come asking for just yet another thing and you haven't added any value to their life, right, that's going to be a hard no, right? 9 times out of 10. Now, I'm not super bougie, and I understand what it's like to want to get your questions answered when you're on your journey. So if I can, if someone shoots me a DM and I happen to see it, sure, I might send a voice note, or I might send a quick text or a tip. Now, there shouldn't be an expectation that that's going to happen, but if I can, sometimes I do. But for you, I'm going to give you 4 strategies that I know will work a lot better than trying to hop in someone's DMs or in their comment section asking, can you pick their brain? All right, let's get into it. All right, so before we get into it, and I said we're gonna get into it, I also just want to acknowledge that today is Father's Day, as it relates to the day that I'm recording this. And so I'm really, really excited, because a lot of what I do is centered around the legacy that I want to leave for my son, right? And so I'm feeling really energized today in recording this, because it just reminds me of like my why, right? Oftentimes, like, I'm very transparent with these videos, and I'm like, man, I'm doing this at Thursday night, even though the video drops tomorrow. And the reason why I refuse to not be consistent, I refuse to not show up regardless of how I feel, regardless of what I have going on, is because I know that my son is watching me. And more than anything, my son is watching my behaviors, and that's what's going to teach him. I can't be a do as I say, don't do as I do type of parent, because that just doesn't work, right? It might work for a period of years when they just are forced to listen to you. But as far as the lifelong principles that they're going to take with them, not going to work. So I made a promise to myself that I don't want my son to have to look past the front porch for motivation and inspiration, right? Now, not to say that he has to be just like me or do what I do. I just want to set an example so that he doesn't have to if he doesn't want to. All right, so let's get into it. The first thing that you can do that might seem super obvious, but it's often overlooked, is do some basic preliminary research and try your best to understand all of the free content and free resources that the person that you want to learn from provides, right? So for example, this show is free. I do it every week, rain, sleet, or snow, right? And so of course, there's no denying that having direct access to me or anybody else that you want to learn from would probably speed up your journey, right? But before you go down that road, ask yourself, have I gotten everything that I can get out of their free content? Have I listened to their podcast? Have I watched their videos on social media? Quick hack, if you go to Instagram and type in George A Speaks, the hashtag, you will see a lot of my value add content for free, right? So have you consumed all their free stuff, their articles, their podcasts that they were featured on, right? All sorts of things, master classes that they host. Check all that out, dive into that, and see if you can extract the value that you're looking for, right? Chances are you're gonna find some value, and maybe it's so good that you just wanna know how you can go deeper. And that brings me to my next point. Have you taken them up on any level of intellectual property that they've created that is paid, right? Because if you've gotten value in their free stuff, there's a strong chance you'll get value out of their paid stuff. So that could be anything like an ebook or an actual book. It can be a course. It could be what else could it be? Anything that where they packaged up their knowledge and you have an opportunity to learn from them, right? Because at the end of the day, they've taken that information, distilled it down, and put it into a format that you can digest and learn from. That's the only reason why they're offering it, right? So understanding that this is the next best thing to getting access to the person is taking advantage of their intellectual property, their courses, their books, their guides, their downloads, their community. All of those things can be extremely helpful, because here's what you don't want to do. What you don't want to do is say, hey, can I pick your brain? And then someone's like, you know what? Today's your lucky day. And you pick their brain, and the questions that you ask them can be found in the context of either their free information or their paid information. Not only did you waste their time because they took the time to create, right, that for these very questions, you wasted the opportunity to ask a higher level, more contextual question, because you're asking a question that's based upon something you could have done on your own before you got there. And so if they were willing to answer that question or talk to you or have a conversation, you've now wasted it by not doing your due diligence, right? So make sure that you at least take advantage of the free information, number one. And then number two, if they have any paid or premium intellectual property, take advantage of it. Hey, number three is a really, really good one, right? This is the one you all been waiting for. How can I get direct access to the person that I want to learn from? It might seem obvious. Drum roll, please. Sign up for their one-on-one offering. Right now, I know everybody doesn't offer like one-on-one coaching or advising or consulting, but a lot of people do. And instead of trying to circumvent that, to pick their brain because you think that you just need that hour over coffee, pay that man, pay that woman, right? Because that is going to give you the access that you're looking for. And instead of trying to pick their brain, why not just pay? Because now you're entering into a business relationship where they're obligated to deliver on something. When you pick someone's brain, they're not obligated to deliver. Right? We always see would you rather have the 500K or the conversation with Jay-Z? And the running joke is Jay might not answer your question, right? So take the 500K. But more realistically, when you pay for someone's time and there's a specific outline of what you're paying for, you don't want to just blindly pay for a pick my brain session, right? I would imagine that it's a coaching program that's structured or something of that sort. You know what to expect and you're paying for a service, and that is going to increase the likelihood that you get what you came for. Right now, what I will also say is if you're paying for one-on-one consulting or coaching or whatever, or even maybe group coaching, if you're paying for that, don't assume just because you have the access that your specific need or pain point is going to be addressed. You have to make sure that what they're offering in the context of that offer addresses that. Because then you're going to get disappointed. Like, I signed up for this because I thought I was going to be able to fly out to Miami where you live. And no. Did you see that anywhere in the description, or did you just swipe your card, right? So just make sure that even though there's someone that it seems like you want to learn from, that what they're actually offering is in alignment with your most pressing problem. For example, we had a podcast tour in New York the other week, and the gentleman asked during Q&A, he said, what books are you reading right now? And Donnie was like, that is a terrible question, because how do you know what I'm reading right now is going to benefit anything that you have going on right now, right? How do you know? And I think the book that she's reading is like Mary Jane for Punks or something like that. So shout out to the author, whoever that is. And Mary Jane for Punks probably isn't going to help out the gentleman who came to a financial literacy event to learn about how to improve his finances, right? So you have to make sure that you understand your chief concern, the number one thing that you're trying to address, and understand that if what they're offering, the access that they're providing, that has the opportunity to be addressed, okay? Now, those honestly are the top three, right? Consume their free stuff, consume their premium, like intellectual property, and then, of course, if they offer it, hire them. Here's a bonus one, though, that most people overlook. So let's assume in this example, the person doesn't offer like a one-on-one coaching session, right? Or maybe they do, but you just want to show how you can add value to their life, right? Maybe you don't just want to pick their brain or learn from them. Maybe you want to work for them, right? You're trying to figure out how you can skip the line. One thing that you can do is you can do your own due diligence. Notice how everything starts off with like not just like jumping ahead of the line, but actually doing a little bit of due diligence and asking them, or not asking them, but finding out what's something that would likely add value to their life, right? So scour their content, scour the offers that they have. Like, what could add value to their life? Do they consistently produce content, but maybe like they don't have like great edits and visuals? If that's something that you can connect the dots on, maybe that's your end. Does this person do a lot of public speaking and you have a connection with the organization that'll stroke a check for 10K to put that person on the stage? Now you're able to leverage somebody else's money to put money in their pocket, and you just connected the dots, right? So anytime you can add value to someone without taking anything from them, it is instantly going to activate the law of reciprocity, right? And most normal, sane, generous, kind human beings, when someone does something for them unsolicited without any strings attached, they organically want to return the favor. The caveat to that is you have to go into it with the expectation that if this person doesn't offer me anything, I'm okay with that. And I'm not going to preemptively say, hey, since I did this, would you mind doing this? You need to go into it managing your expectations and being detached from the result and truly wanting to serve, right? If you do that, my bet is that most people would try to find a way to pay you back in some way. The good news is you don't want anything monetary per se, depending upon what your ask is. You want that access. You want to be able to talk to them. You want to be able to ask questions, whatever the case may be. Now, if it were me, even if that's the route that I was going, I still would try to purchase or purchase their paid offers or consume their free content. Because here's the thing: if if you do something for someone and your ask is like, hey, thank you so much for being considerate to see if there's any way you can return the favor. I'd love to learn X, Y, and Z. If they offer X, Y, and Z in free content or paid content or whatever, you not taking them up on that before that conversation doesn't really show that you're serious about learning from them, right? More realistically, it should be like, hey man, I consumed every podcast you've ever put out. I read your book. I took your course. I got this result. Here's where I'm getting hung up though, or here's where I want to take things to the next level. But most people don't want to hear that. They want to skip the line. And I'm not saying you can't try, but if it was me, like that's what I would do. Now, the only exception to that is if you're not trying to learn from them per se and you want to like work for them. Like maybe you want to run their ads or do their video editing or something like that, right? That's a little bit different because what they teach might not necessarily be explicitly relevant to what you're trying to accomplish. What you're trying to accomplish is get a new job or get a new contract, right? And so that might be the only example where I wouldn't consume everything. I still would consume some of the stuff so that I at least know who they are and what matters to them, because I think that actually impacts how you work for them, right? You got to understand like their stance on things, like how they communicate, their philosophy, like all that stuff matters. You don't want to just check the box, even when you're working for someone. So I still would be very clear on who they are and what they do, and not just say, oh, they look really successful. Let me do this video edit and see if they want to hire me, right? But I can say that I don't think you have to consume everything in that example, right? So in the example where you want to like potentially like work for that person or provide a service, right? What I would do is I would do the thing for them, give it to them and say, hey, I can start doing this if you like it, but here's an example of what it looks like. That's literally the easiest way to sell anybody is to do it. Right. So imagine if the reason why when you go in Costco and they give out the samples, it's like if they taste this ice cream, if they taste these pizza bites, they gonna buy these things. But you got to have enough conviction and confidence in your product that if someone samples it, they're gonna want to come back for more. Right. If you're afraid that if you give something away for free, they're not gonna want to keep coming back, that means you're probably questioning the value of what you're providing, right? So that should be table stakes if that's the option or the reason why you're trying to get closer to someone to pick their brain. All right, guys, I hope this was helpful. I hope you guys had an amazing week. We will see you next week on Financial Freedom Fastlane. And remember, freedom is for sale if you're willing to pay the price. Peace.